Hi, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to cover three things that I think every iRacer should know about when it comes to the ini files in iRacing. These files are the ones where we can make extra tweaks that aren't necessarily in the sim and still improve our overall game experience. So let's get started. Alright, so here you notice I have opened my iRacing folder. Mine happens to be in the default location, C drive users, my name, documents, under iRacing, and in this folder we have several of the ini files. Right? So here's the first one we're going to look at. This is the app.ini. So make sure you find yours wherever you've installed iRacing in your computer. Mine was in the default location. From here, we open up the file, and it's just a text file, right? So the first thing I'm going to show you, as far as what are the first of the three things that I think you should check and set for yourself in the ini file, is the one that allows you to move all of the elements on the screen when you're in the driver's seat. So where is that? So if we go down to the graphics section here, right? And then we come down, force visible when move. So this line right here, if by default it's set to 0. I've set mine to 1. So every time I'm in the driver's seat and I want to move the black boxes around, or the speed and the shifter indicator and all these kinds, all the windows that are on the screen, I hit Alt K, and then because I have the 1 selected here, all of them will become visible. Even the ones I don't have on the screen at the moment will become visible. So by setting this to 1, I can move all of them so that if they come up later on, then they're already in the spot that I want them to be. Okay, I don't have to force that view or force that item to be visible and then hit Alt K real quick and try to move around. No, this option here has them all visible, and then I can move them all around, and then when they pop up, they're in the spot that I want them to be at. Alright, so now you'll see I am in the car. I'm in the ARCA car and happen to be at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And so right now I've got my screen up. You can see I've got some of the boxes here. Session best lap, the pit lane entrance, my speed and pedal and steering wheel, and shifter indicator, and the relative black box, as well as the virtual mirror, right? So if I hit Alt K at this point, if you still have your ini at default of 0 for that one particular line, you hit Alt K, you see I've got the highlights around the boxes that are here, right? And I can move them, right? I can move them around, but that's all I see is these boxes. I don't see any of the other ones. But now, right, if I go into my app.ini, change that setting to a 1, then when I hit Alt K, I'll see them all, like this. This time when I hit Alt K, I've changed that setting to a 1, and now I see all of the boxes that would ever show up on the screen. And at this point, I can move them wherever I need them to be. Whatever makes sense for me and my driving. Right, so I've got these on top of each other. Well, maybe I don't want them, or maybe it's okay because they never show up at the same time. But either way, I now have access to all of them, and I can move them around. And then when I turn Alt K off, it just goes back to the ones that would normally be there. So I think that's a very important setting. Very helpful if you want to be able to move all your stuff around and set it just once and never have to touch it again. So the next setting we're going to look at is called the Auto Reset Pit Box. Auto Reset Pit Box. So we're going to scroll past all of these different sections, and we're going to go down to the pit service. And here we have auto reset pit box for 0. So by default, this is set to 1 in iRacing. What that means is whenever you pit, as soon as you leave the pits, it's going to automatically check all your boxes to get everything changed. You're going to get new fuel, you're going to get tires, you're going to get a windshield tear off. All the things you would have with a normal pit stop would automatically be rechecked for the next one. And it's helpful in that case if you tend to not make changes and you forget to set your pits or whatever. At least next time you go in, everything is set and you'll get your service right away. Now, if you don't want that, if you'd like to have more control over what gets changed at each pit stop, then you're going to want to set this to 0 like I have here. Right. So what happens is you enter pit road, you get your service for whatever you've selected, you leave pit road, nothing gets checked or turned on for the next stop. You would have to go in and manually request your tires be changed, your windshield tear off be changed, fuel added, and all those kinds of things. Anything normally you would get with a pit stop, with a full stop. With this being set to 0, none of that happens, and then you just have to remember to set it. And that comes in handy if, for instance, you just want to take fuel. You know, you'd have to uncheck all these other boxes. Whereas if this was already, everything was already unchecked, you come in, you just get fuel, and that's it. So that's tip number 2. So let's take a look at what that looks like in the sim. All right, so with that setting at default, what'll happen now is, let's pretend I've just received my service and I'm getting ready to leave pit road. You'll see everything's been unchecked because I've received service. So fuel and tires here, hang on a sec. Fuel and tires, nothing's checked because I've already had my service. Now if I leave pit road, watch the black box or these check boxes here. As soon as I cross the green cones, boom, they get turned back on. Okay, turned back on because I've got the setting in there that says automatically check everything as soon as I'm done, or as soon as I leave pit road. So next time I come around, everything's checked. I don't have to do anything, and I can get my pit stop and get full service. Now, if I don't want to do that, then I have to set that setting to a 0 like I had it in mine, and then this is what happens. All right, so at this point, I've gone in and I've set that line back to a 0. So I'm going to go ahead and leave pit road, just like I would after I've received service. You notice my fuel is turned, has no check marks, and my tires do not. And then again, but now this time, as soon as I leave pit road, meaning I cross these green cones, no check boxes, because I have that set to 0. Okay, so this allows me to have better control over what I want to do on my next pit stop. Maybe I just want to take tires, maybe right sides only, maybe fuel only. I get to decide, and iRacing is not throwing that in there right away. So hopefully tip number 2 helps you out. So let's move on to tip number 3. All right, so the third and final tip that I have for you today involves your core.ini, which is a second file in that your My Documents iRacing folder. So if we look at, again, the My Documents iRacing folder, we come down here, we have this other ini file called core.ini. And there's no demo for this. There's nothing in it that allow me to show you something in the game. Doesn't really affect the sim itself, other than if you are struggling with your CPU and your rig keeping up with the sim, iRacing put in a line in here that might help you out. It might help you get over the hump in dealing with the extra CPU load with some of the new damage model that's coming out on the cars and things like that. I know it helped me a little bit when they first introduced this, but not many people know about it. So if your CPU is struggling, you're getting the red bar showing up and the S bar is always going into the red whenever an accident happens or something like that, go into your core.ini file. We're going to scroll down to where it says task. Okay? And then we have this new line here. Number of processors to use for new damage. Right now, by default, it's set to 0, meaning 0 is going to have the system decide. Okay? But if you want to have a little more control over it, you want to kind of find a number that works for your situation, for your rig, for your CPU, then you have the options of choosing 1 through 8, meaning how many cores or processors are you going to utilize for the damage, for the new damage model within iRacing. So play around with that, see if you find a sweet spot. Maybe 1 will do it. Maybe you have to go all the way to 8. It's really going to determine or depend on your situation. If you don't have 8 cores, I don't recommend going above the number of cores that you have. You can try it. I just don't know what's going to happen. So I recommend just going up to the number of cores you have, and if any of those make it any better, great. Then leave it like that, save the file, and leave it like that, and you'll be good. And maybe it'll help you get over the hump until you can get a better CPU, or until iRacing can do something to better optimize the damage model and its effect on the CPU, things like that. So this is not one that many people talk about, many people know about, and usually you only find out about it from staff if you've had problems. Like I said, I tried this when it first came out, and it helped a little bit. Ultimately, I did end up upgrading to the machine that I have now, and I have no issues at the moment. But the processor I had before was about probably 5 years old at the time they started coming out with the new damage models, specifically for the ARCA car. Whenever I had it, there was an accident in a race that I was in with the ARCA car, and damage was going everywhere, pieces were flying. My CPU struggled. The bar went red, the skew bar started going red, and usually I would miss laps or I'd get kicked out or something like that. It was bad. My CPU struggled to keep up with the extra load the new damage model placed on it. So when the iRacing came out with this option, I think it was season 2 of last year, maybe season 1 of last year, I played around with it. I found a number that helped, and it did give me helped me get by a little bit longer, but ultimately ended up upgrading, and that was the ultimate fix for me. Hopefully this one helps you out just a little bit more and gets you a little farther down the road in hanging on to the current rig that you have. Well, that's going to do it for my 3 tips. I hope you found them helpful and hope they improve your iRacing experience. If you'd like to know about more tips, please drop by my Twitch channel. The link will be in the description below. I stream every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, and usually I'll throw in another stream or 2 during the week if my work schedule allows. Please don't forget to hit the like button and consider following the channel if you enjoyed what you heard today. So until next time, live well, laugh often, and love always. Take care.